Hey guys, this is Joy with Create It with Joy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's cards, I have made two using Picket Fence Studios, a Bottomless C. I made two cards because I really love the simplicity of this stamp set and I had so much fun making it. So here is the stamp set. There's wonderful sentiments and I love how long they are. It fits pretty much the whole length of like an A2 size card and the width of the bubbles. So I'm using my Misti. I am going to be making two cards. I'm going to ink this up. I'm using Simon Says Stamp Clear Embossing Ink and I'm going to be using white embossing powder for both cards. I laid out my sentiment for my first card and I just taped that off. It's really not necessary to do it that way. I'm not sure why I thought I had to do it like that, but I ended up kind of changing it a little bit later. So inking it up, I prepped my paper. I am using a Bristol smooth cardstock for this, and I prepped it with my anti-static tool. I am going to be using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. You could use watercolors for this. I did want it to have that watercolor look. So I'm using my white embossing powder, which is super yummy on white cardstock. I love the look of the white on white. And I'm doing two panels of these. I've only showed you one because you don't need to see me stamp things twice. So heat that up, make sure it's nice and hot so your paper doesn't warp. And I'm gonna melt that. And then we are going to do some watercoloring. Well, my way of watercoloring because I'm not really a watercolorist. So I taped it down. I am using Tim Holtz Glass Media Matte and I am just spraying some water off to the side. I apologize for my head, you guys. Laying down my color. This first one I am doing rainbow order. So it's starting with wine red, orange, yellow, emerald green, turquoise green, Persian blue, purple, and violet. And I am just laying it down pretty heavy-handed at the bottom using a paintbrush, dipping it in my water and just spreading it up to the top, you know, so it's still concentrated heavy at the bottom and gets lighter at the top. I don't think this card could be any more simpler than this. I love how strikingly beautiful this card turned out to be. I did like having some more dark spots, so I just came back with the markers and added a little more dark. Super easy, really easy to control. We're just going to go through adding each color and working our way up. And then the next card is just going to be in blues, which are my favorite color anyways, but you could do this with any color, obviously. And so I really love the simplicity of this stamp set. There is something about those bubbles that spoke to me. It's the ocean. Again, I've talked about that a bajillion times, that I love everything ocean and beachy. And so I've seen this stamp set for a while and I finally just had to get it because every time I saw it, for some reason it took my breath away and I'm like, I just need to have that in my collection. And so what I did with the stamp, I just kind of followed, there was a bunch of like little sections of bubbles and that's what I'm following with the colors here. And so it kind of helped me guide me in how many colors I needed to go across this card. So just keep laying down the color, cleaning off your paintbrush so you don't get the next color in. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows that. Coming back in and adding some dark. I really liked the dark and light contrast of these. So after it dried, you could come back and add some more color and work with that, and I really did like that. I am not a purple person, but I just thought that was a really pretty color. Really pretty. That is the purple, and then the violet we are going to use last. Super cute, super pretty, super simple. And then we're just going to let this dry. When I'm done, we're going to let it dry and stamp the sentiment at the bottom. And it says, mightier than the waves of the sea is his love for you. Of course, we're talking about our precious Lord and Savior. But here I go adding back in some of that dark because it kind of went away and I really liked that. But your personal preference on how you like your watercoloring to look. And some of it I didn't even blend out. Some of it I just kind of left really dark down at the base and then just dotted it with a little bit of water. And then I kind of wanted to soften some of those edges, so I came back and adding some water to that. And now it's all done. Really fast. Lined up my sentiment at the bottom. I'm using Ranger's Archival Jet Black ink. It is watercolor. It can handle watercolors, if that makes sense. And I'm just lining that up at the bottom, and I will be attaching that to an A2 size card base. Stamping it again, so I love a stamp positioning tool, because then you can get a nice, dark, crisp image. Adding this to my card base. And I just left that card as it is. I think these would be really cute, simple thank you cards. Isn't that so pretty? And you can see those white bubbles. So here's the second one that I did. Now I flipped it over where the bubbles are going down instead of rising up. And I am just using a bunch of different blues. I'm using deep blue, cobalt blue, Persian blue, and turquoise green. I gotta throw a little turquoise in there because that is ultimately my most favorite color in the whole entire world. I laid that down heavy, and I did it differently. I laid them all together because these ones, I want them to blend together because they're all in the same color family, and I think it would be gorgeous when those colors mix and blend. It's seamless from side to side, if that makes sense. But I am wiping off my paintbrush between so I don't drag in that really dark, deep blue color into the other colors. I don't want it to wash out any colors. I mean, this one was even more simple than the last card. Leaving a lot of dark at the top again and letting it just go really soft all the way down to the bottom of this card. And this one I am taking all the way to the bottom, where the other one I left white at the top. I did not do that on this one. I love these colors. That deep blue is really super yummy. I think that would make a really good color for the bottom of an ocean card, like the deep, deep, deep blue. I think that is a perfect color for that. Finish this up, and you can set this aside to dry. I took my heat tool to it because I don't have patience to wait for anything to dry. If I had something else to do, that would have been fine, but I did not. So now I am coming back with my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I am just laying some of that down. Now, being that this is watercolor, and I think this is a water-based pen, it takes a little bit of the color off, so I just kept wiping that off to the side, so I didn't take any of the color and move it to where I don't want it to be onto my card. But added a little bit of sparkle, not in every spot, but just a little bit, and it looks fantastic. I don't know if you can see that in there, but it's super pretty. So now time for this sentiment. This says saltwater heals everything. I truly believe that. I have just been jonesing to go to the beach, and I live like 8 hours away, 7 hours away. So it's not an easy trip for me to take, but I need to go soon. Stamping that one more time using the same Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. Getting it nice and dark, making sure it's lined up again. And now I am taking some metallic watercolor paints, and I am splashing it all over this card. I felt like this one needed a little something else. I think probably because it was all in the blue family, where the other card was super lively because it was in rainbow order. So I did that, and I'm taking some of the blues that I used to color, thinning them out with water and dipping them with my little tiny paintbrush and just tapping them to where I get these little splats all over my card. I really did like how this one turned out. Super easy, but what a great effect. And I've taken some gold sequins and just laying some of those around. And that adds a little more color. I love blue and golds together. I love gold anything, so it just was super pretty. And I did adhere that to an A2 size card base. I trimmed this panel down a little bit smaller, so it had a white frame. Now, I felt like this sentiment needed to be a brighter black. Had I left my sentiment in my Misti, I would have stamped it again in black and done some white embossing, clear embossing powder over it, but I had moved it and I didn't want to line it up. So I just took my black glaze pen and traced over the sentiment, and it got this really shiny black, which is what I felt this card needed. So as you can see, that looks really, really pretty. You guys, we're done. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope these cards have inspired you. If you like what you've seen, please thumbs up, subscribe, share, comment. I love your comments. I appreciate everything that you do, and I do have some affiliate links below. It costs you nothing, but it helps me. Thank you, and I'll see you later.